Hi, I'm Joe Simon. Welcome to episode 6 of the J&J show. I'm here with my partner, Josh Yaskowski.
That I am.
Yep. And today we're going to talk about one of the commonly asked questions, which is, I think you said, who is our custodian?
Yeah, who is your broker dealer? Who's your custodian? RA? There's any number of ways to phrase it, but a lot of the times it's a question of where's my money actually going to be?
That's the best way to put it, right? Where's my money? And for us, that's LPL Financial. I would venture to say, I know they're the largest independent broker dealer in the U.S. and I
Yeah,
think
publicly
possibly the
traded.
world. They're a Fortune 500 company. They're part of the S&P 500.
Yeah.
What else do we know about them, Josh?
Let's go private ledger.
Yeah, exactly. I think established 1989.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
So LPL has been around a long time, and something you'll see with many industries, and ours in particular, a lot of different firms have gone by different names, have accumulated other firms, and perhaps changed their names again.
Yeah.
So it comes up a lot. To your point, it somewhat comes down to business type,
Yeah.
dictates where your money is. It kind of gives the outline. And this is where people ask this question, or they try to ask this question of, so who are you guys? Who are YTS, and who is LPL, and or who's Lincoln, who's Jackson,
Yep.
who's Allianz, who's Athene, who are all these names? And to your point, where is my money? And if it's a case of brokerage style business or advisory business, it's held at LPL. That's the custodian. We are your advisor. We give the direct advice.
Yep.
And that's the other thing that comes up a lot is, well, who's making the investment decisions? The people you're working with. It's us. Now, what does LPL do in particular? LPL is a more conservative firm, or perhaps defensive, however you want to phrase it. So they do a lot of vetting of the investments we can and can't offer. For example, there are more leveraged products we don't have access to. There are, I couldn't buy shares in a Peruvian llama farm, to my knowledge.
Well, there are insurance companies, annuity companies that we don't have access to because they didn't meet the standards of LPL as well. Yeah, I think what makes LPL a little different when they started out was, a lot of people haven't heard of LPL, just walking around. Yeah. People like everybody knows who Merrill Lynch or
The Vanguards,
Morgan Stanley's, yes.
Yeah.
But I think the premise behind LPL is they wanted to create a firm or a custodian with the size, the scale, and the resources of a Merrill Lynch, but allowed the individual advisors to run their businesses in the way they wanted to and to put their own names on the door.
Well, and LPL, at least to my most recent knowledge, has still kept it advisor focused.
Yes.
A lot of these names that we're mentioning are names that are retail investor platforms. Therefore, Merrill had Merrill Edge, I think, for a while. I don't know if they still do. That was supposed to be the retail client platform. So a lot of places have gone to robo-advisors or retail platform. LPL is still an advisor-driven, have to have an advisor. But we say all these names, and that's the comparative. Of LPL is similar to a Schwab. It's similar to a Vanguard. It's similar to any of these names in respect of holding your assets there. They custody your assets.
And they're certainly just as large, right? Yeah, and one of the things that I love about LPL, I know one of the reasons that we have LPL as our custodian is that there are no proprietary products.
Yeah.
Right. So
Which a lot of these names I just mentioned have proprietary products.
So we're not going to recommend something because it's a product that our firm.
Yeah. There's no LPL large cap growth fund.
No, there's not.
That you suddenly would have 80% of your portfolio in, and the expense ratio happens to be 1.5% kind of thing. Not to say it's conflict of interest. I don't have the money to say.
Yeah. I mean, it was important for us to work with a firm that had complete open architecture, no proprietary products. And what we recommend because it's the best thing for our clients.
And that's a question to ask, because that's what somebody may see. Oh, my custodian is Vanguard. I work with an advisor there, and out of my 15 positions, 13 of them are Vanguard. Doesn't mean they're not good.
Nope.
They have some good positions for sure. But from a clarity standpoint, you may want to know that.
Yeah.
Do we have these because they're the best, or because they also happen to have the same name on them?
And this comes down to asking the questions, asking the right questions, right?
That dovetails into fees. But there are a lot of places that can custody assets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could argue that if you have an IRA at a bank, the bank is custodying your assets. It might be a case of if you have life insurance, it's custodied there. So what's become very popular in our business for good reason is the ability to aggregate all of this. There's a lot of different ways through, and most companies do it now, that if you have an accounts have accounts at a firm. They give you the means through your login or just putting the numbers in to aggregate your information. And that's sometimes a point of confusion where we have clients that they may have, it's not advisor, it's not brokerage, maybe it's a third party, maybe it's life insurance, maybe it's an annuity, whatever it happens to be, that is actually custodied there,
Yes.
but reflected at LPL through any number of names, a shell account, an outside business account, a direct business account, which means a lot of the time you have two account numbers.
Yep.
And that's the part that can get confusing.
It comes up every time I do a meeting with a client that again, we have a product that's custodied elsewhere, but attached through a outside business account.
Yeah.
So it's definitely confusing when they look at their statements, but that's we just have to explain to the client that's the only way we can show the asset on their
Consolidated view.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So you might have to directly answer your question, where is my money? Well, and people were probably already tired of hearing us say, but it depends.
Yeah.
Are you brokerage and advisory? Then you're probably all at LPL. Do you have a couple growth annuities or income annuities or fixed annuities or whatever it happens to be? Do you have, some IUL, some VUL, just some general life? That money's probably held at the companies providing those platforms and being reflected through your login.
I'll just say that. Maybe we should change the name of the podcast to It Depends, right?
It
Like that all the time.
depends. Just not the product you find on L5.
Nope, absolutely. So, yeah, so that's LPL again. For us, it was important to work with, one of the biggest custodians out in the industry.
Because there is size and scale.
Size and scale, exactly. We wanted to
The compliance oversight.
clients oversight. We wanted no proprietary products, open architecture, and that's what LPL provides for us.
And some firms, to take a step further on that, that answers not the question of where your money is because your money's not here. But sometimes you may work with a firm and get a notification from a completely different firm that you did not know is correlated to who you're working with. And that then gets into the world of third-party compliance and OSJs.
Yep.
And there may be another name out there that you occasionally get notifications from or see paperwork from that your advisor clears through or does their compliance through.
Yep.
So it's not nefarious to see multiple names on
But it can get
I'll
convoluted.
say that, but it can definitively be confusing.
Yeah.
So don't shy away from asking that question. If it's, hey, I got a notification from so-and-so, I've never heard of this company.
No.
Definitely ask, because unfortunately now it goes in the world of someone trying to scam you.
Yeah. And again, I tell clients that all the time is that it's not a big deal. Just shoot us an email, give us a call,
Yep.
and we'll go through it with you. And, I'd rather you do that and know that you aren't getting scammed than to, not ask the question and then have it be a Nigerian prince reaching out to you.
Yeah.
$1 million,
You send me 10 grand, I'll be able to get the million over to it.
exactly.
Whatever it takes, because that does happen more and more frequently. I was reading an article this morning with AI. Go figure. What else are you going to talk about at this point? But just the number of scams that come up that it used to be you could tell a scam from grammatical errors, punctuation errors, capitalization errors. Now they write better than I speak, than I write. I mean, they seem far more sophisticated than I am.
I'll tell you, AI is the craziest thing out there. I mean, sometimes, I'm on, one of these Instagrams, Facebook, and I'm reading an article and I'm thinking it's 100% legit, but it was an AI generated article, which I would have never known until, I looked at another source.
Agreed. And it's since we're talking about it, how you dovetail AI into our business is it's happening at an accelerated rate. For us, and this question comes up a lot recently, well, how are you implementing AI into your practice? More so operationally is how we're implementing it. We're really not doing, because we have products and platforms and strategies that have AI-based strategies. We know we've looked at a few of them. Track record's just not really there. It's something of also who's making the decisions. And that comes down to clients. Some clients are, hey, I'm fine with it. The numbers are the numbers are the numbers. If AI works, great. Or do you want someone, Josh, Joe, John, Bob, making those decisions?
And I don't know in our world from a compliance standpoint that they're ready to allow us to use AI to make investment decisions at this point.
Not to the large scale and scope. It would be to be a direct replacement for you or I. Again, an individual index strategy or an individual mutual fund ETF, individual solution that has an AI tilt to it.
Yeah.
That's somewhat been going on for a while. But things that are 100% AI driven, not so much. And then, of course, just being in the chairs we sit in, then I have, okay, if it's actively trading, whether tax ramifications. I mean, there's a lot of
And
questions to go into.
I think we're a long way from that because I think that, again, every individual's plan is different. Every individual's goals are different. And I'm not sure AI is at a point where it'd be able to, take the data, interpret it, and really come out with a cohesive plan for you, the individual.
To your point, putting the various pieces together, because wealth management is not just investment management.
No.
Wealth management typically involves the planning component
There's a
to it,
lot of nuance.
which is a lot harder to do. May you be able to find an algorithm-based AI platform to do day-to-day trading? Yeah, probably. In the ether, that's probably true. It probably makes a lot of money. What are you doing with the rest of?
Yeah.
And how are you talking about taxes? How are you talking about, if you're doing that and you're making money, you're talking about legacy, you're talking about lifetime gift exemptions. What are you talking about? To your point, it's hard to find. You might be able to find piecemeal 5 different platforms to talk about 5 different areas. Are you going to be able to bring it all together, though?
No, and I don't think so. Not yet. I'm not sure we're close because, again, the issue, and we know this with AI or computers, they don't understand nuance, right?
Well, and it can, I mean, and I've read articles and we've talked about it, of AI producing false court cases as precedent for some sort of writing it's making, where it completely made it up. And if not for being fact-checked, we never know.
No.
I don't necessarily want AI to put together fake back testing on something that we move forth as though this is the way we should be going. Can it be trusted, for lack of now that's a political issue as well, but just generally, can it be trusted, on its face? Depends.
Yeah. And again, not to say, never say never, but I think we're a ways away from that.
Yeah. At least, I don't know. Hopefully in my career.
Me too.
Hopefully,
Well, you got a longer way to go than I do.
yeah. So it's more unknown for me.
Yeah. Excellent.
One of the other questions dovetailing into, so the question is, what types of clients do you work with?
Yeah.
And I'd say most advisors eventually develop a niche or a specific group of clients they work with. It's a little bit of the jack of all, master of none.
I mean, I'd 100% agree. At least, in my experience, successful advisors generate a niche, right?
Maybe that's the
You
word.
can't be all things to all people and run a business that way. You gotta find a niche, know that niche inside and out. And, that's how you get referrals and grow your business, because you become an expert in one area, right? And that's why successful advisors are successful. I don't know of a successful advisor that doesn't have a niche.
Yeah, more of the general practitioner aspect. And I think it's younger advisors that more so try to do that. Or if you're trying to figure out your niche, hey, I get it.
Well,
I'm trying a bunch of different things.
I think that's what happens with younger advisors, right? They go, they're all over the place until they figure out what works for them, right? And what type of clients they connect with, right? Because we're all going to connect with different types of people. You and I, even though we work together on a daily basis, are very different, right?
Absolutely.
You're more data driven, more facts driven. I'm more, big picture, strategic, emotional.
I'm more sterile in that respect.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably the right word.
Yeah.
I don't advertise my office. You advertise your office.
Yes.
There.
I like,
Great, I should say.
you decorate the office. I'll probably spend a lot more time talking to clients about their lives and what's going on in their lives and their grandchildren and their vacations than you will. You'll probably dive right in the numbers.
Yeah. And that makes for, today's a prime example. We had a referral from a client that they described their friends that they were referring as in the weeds. Okay, that's a very specific phrase.
That's going to be a Josh client.
That tells us who they should be talking to, at least at first, because this question kind of dovetails into are you the only advisor I'm going to be working with?
Yep.
And in my mind, and you can absolutely disagree, the answer should almost always be no.
Yep.
What I mean by that is, if you're only ever going to work with one advisor, I walk outside, get hit by a bus.
Yep.
I end up in a coma. I pass away. I retire. I just get older.
Yep.
How does that system work if there's no second or transition? I know we've talked about it in other areas, but the specific question is, are you the only advisor I'm going to work with? And I hope the answer is no.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm sitting next to you, right? Because I was running my own book of business, and, one of my concerns was, my clients only had me to work with. And if something were to happen to me, well, they wouldn't know where to go, right? So I had to, for my business, my clients, put myself in a position where now my clients know who to reach out to. They know who to talk to if something were to happen to me. And I can feel comfortable knowing that if something does happen to me, they're going to be taken care of, right?
Absolutely.
That was important to me.
And why I mention it here, and it's the appropriate place, is because we're talking about subject matter expertise. And in a nice size firm, we'll call a medium sized firm. That's probably the more accurate way to say it. You would hope, as we do, have subject matter experts in different areas that you can tag in.
Yeah.
For example, I'm not a master of, corporate executive benefits.
Yep.
That's not an area that I've ever worked in, but we have somebody that is. We primarily work in the world of federal benefits. If somebody from one of the other offices came in and said, hey, I have a client who's considering, leaving the IRS,
Yep.
that is a case where, and they've done this before, call us in of, hey, subject matter expertise, we're all trying to row the boat in the same direction. Can you talk to this client? So again, should the answer be that I'm the only one you're working with? No, but it's for a multitude of reasons. It doesn't just have to be the dark reasons that I mentioned, but it may just be because we want you to get the highest quality advice.
Yeah, we all have expertise in different areas, and we also have likes in different areas, right?
Sure.
Like you want to get in the nitty gritty. It's not really what I want to do. I rather stay big picture and strategic. So we tend to have gravitated that way, which works well in our partnership.
Certainly.
But not to say that either of us couldn't do the other.
Yeah, it's high. Well, it gets into the highest and best.
Yeah.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
No.
And that's always the case. And I think we certainly go by that, because it even comes down to, you might have advisors that just from a product knowledge or product preference standpoint have specific interests. I very much like structured notes. I love talking about bank notes. I love looking at what's available, how they're going to work, what their back testing is. I don't have the same level of excitement about, for example, models and putting together models.
And I love building the models and working with the models and rebalancing and trading, anything within the models. That's what I love to do. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
could you go in and talk about a note from top to bottom? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But it's not your highest, not really by your preference.
Yeah.
Could I go in and trade the model if we need to do something and talk
Absolutely.
about why we're doing things? Certainly, but it's not highest and best, which just gets down to efficiency.
Yeah.
Is it efficient to only have one advisor? Not so much. And even in YTS, the practice design, of course, okay, we have wealth management. We also have planning.
Yep.
Do you want your advisor doing, the planning and the wealth management and scheduling meetings, et cetera? Eventually the economies of scale are going to catch up with you, which is why we have a planning department.
Yep. And, they build out our financial plans based on guidance from us and, what we know about the clients. They sit in on the plans. So again, highest and best use, right?
Yep. I mean, the same thing with the administrative and operations channel. If it's going to be scheduling, you and I spend a lot of time in meetings daily.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. But we don't want anyone to miss a meeting. So when it comes to scheduling, no, that's not really an area you and I focus on. That's not highest and best. But we have team members that can do it with their eyes closed. They know the calendar. They know the schedule all the time. Even if they're not looking at the calendar, if someone responds saying, I want XYZ time slot, they already know it's not available.
Yeah.
It's all just highest and best. It is a team approach. I firmly believe it should be a team approach. I think that's the way to do it for any number of reasons.
No, I agree. And again, honestly, I wouldn't want to do it on my own anyways. It's just, I don't think you're able to give the clients, if you're trying to do, you can't be all things to all people at all times,
time.
right?
Yeah.
All the time. So if you're trying to do it all, I just don't see how that works. I think, just the way our team runs, everything just happens smoothly and efficiently because we've all kind of fallen into what we like to do and what we do best. All right.
Well, and sometimes it's known also that your advisors are people too.
Yep.
And sometimes they may want to take a trip. They may want to spend time with their family, but we still made an obligation to you. And that's why we have multiple people. Now, if you need something, we're going to be here because we said we would be here.
Now, back to the original question, our niche and specialty, I think again, we're a large firm. We have advisors, all over the place. I can only speak to Josh and I here in the DC area. And, shockingly, our niche in the DC area is federal employees and military.
Yep.
That's probably comprises about 95% of our clients. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't work with you if you weren't, but that's just kind of how things
we have
shaken out.
Federal employees that refer their friends or their neighbors because we are a more dynamic firm. We just know that there's a couple very specific things
Mhm.
that are going to be, and frankly, sometimes I think it makes this actually better with non-federal employees
Yep.
because we know the difference between federal and non-federal
Yeah.
and the shortcomings that are going to be there that we don't perhaps have in the other
Yeah.
direction, or the ramifications of, having a pension that somebody else may not. Okay, that's something we directly need to start with
Yeah.
in the planning process.
But, I will say though, if you are a federal employee, you probably should seek out an advisor who understands your unique benefits, because it is a little bit more complex. It is a little bit different. And it's not something you can just pick up by going onto Google and typing in some questions. So, um, you're going to be better served, whether it's with us or someone else, working with an advisor that does specialize in federal benefits.
And it's going to be also knowing, and maybe it's telling a little bit of the secrets, but a lot of agencies have people come in and talk about retirement.
Yep.
Just know that in those meetings, there's often some direction ahead of time of what can and can't be said in those seminars and those meetings. You can't go out and say that something that was put in place by the agency doesn't make sense or doesn't
Yep.
work well. You can't say that kind of thing. So again, if you want to be transparent and or agnostic, you might want to get a third party that can just tell you bluntly and frankly, hey, here's what works well. Here is what doesn't work so well.
And I'll tell you, it even ties into, I think, one of the most important things that we do is when a client passes away, we help the surviving spouse or family members through that process, right? And I think, for federal employees, it's even more important to have an advisor that understands, how the paperwork works at OPM and specializes in that. Because in that scenario, for example, when if client passes away, we fill out the paperwork. We help them fill out the paperwork.
Yep. We sit there with them, tell them what needs to go where. We often follow up as far as reading the bulletins from OPM and
Mhm.
what processing times are looking like, what the ramifications may be, what the timelines are. It's a stressful, it's an emotional time,
Mhm.
and having someone just mail you, 50 pages of paperwork is not helping anyone feel better about the situation.
No, not at all. So that's I think it's probably one of the most important things that we do. And if you're a federal employee and your advisor does not specialize in federal employees, they're not gonna be able to help you with that.
No, and it's one thing, and you said this earlier, and forgive me, I'm just getting back to it now. It's one thing to understand the nuances.
Mhm.
It's something completely separate to actually have actionable and executable items around it. Because we've seen people that know federal benefit
Yep.
to an extreme amount.
Mhm.
They may have forgotten more than I'll ever know.
Yep.
However, when it came to executing on the wealth management and the financial planning that goes along with it, there's a shortcoming.
Yeah, you gotta tie it all together.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Which again may be the reason you have multiple people on the team. Somebody specializes in the benefits, somebody specializes in executing a plan. Because it's pointless to, in the most frank of terms, it's pointless to have a plan if it's not going to be something you're going to be able to execute on
No.
or are unable or unwilling to execute on. And we have seen that. We've had people come from other firms that, hey, they knew the benefits like the back of my hand. They were able to do my pension calculations in their head. That's great. From an investment standpoint, you've effectively been in money market for 5 years.
They couldn't execute on a strategy.
So it's great to know that stuff, but how do you translate that? So that's, again, it's great if somebody wows you with the knowledge, but they have to be able to apply it.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you have all this knowledge and then you go to retirement and your life changed and also the group of things you have to talk about have changed. You still can't forget the basic principles of financial planning, distribution phase, investment and retirement modeling. Yes, you're a federal employee with very specific benefits, but you still have to include all those basic principles of planning and wealth management. And we've seen that be a mess.
Yep. So yes, we do have a niche, but we will work with you if you are outside of it.
And we'll tell you transparently of based on your situation, are we a good fit? Would we not be a good fit? Is it a case that someone else in our practice is a better fit for you?
That's what I was going to get to, is that maybe if we weren't the best fit, well, we have other advisors in our practice that focus in different areas that may be a better fit, and that's okay. I mean, we're gonna refer you to that advisor if that's the case.
Yeah, and even if it's a personality thing, or you don't like my hair and you prefer somebody else's, okay, no problem. We have the avenues for that. It's not. Do we have pride in what we do? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But do we have ego in it to say, oh well, if I can't work with you, no one can? Absolutely not. That doesn't help anybody.
So with that, I think that wraps up this episode of the J&J Show.
I believe so. I believe that's episode 6.
Episode 6.
We would hope that you would like,
subscribe,
or comment.
We'll see you guys the next time on episode 7. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I'm sure it'll be a little light. Yes.
It depends.
It depends. That's right. Which may be the new name of our show. I don't know.
It depends.